Hey everybody, Eric Grenier here with Philippe J. Fournier for this week's episode of The Numbers. It is June 25th. We are finally officially in the summer, and I know that as a planet buff, you talk about the equinox, but...
the solstice! Oh my God, Eric!
Whatever. It's all the same. Doesn't matter. It's just details. Anyway, it is now the summer, and
yes, it is.
The MPs have gone home for the summer. Everybody's getting a little bit more relaxed, and you and I are just yucking it up right here, so we're all in a good mood. How are you doing these days?
The solstice. I'm doing very well.
I'm so sorry. I got the solstice versus the equinox wrong. Oh, what an idiot I must be.
You know what? Typical Virgo or whatever you are. Anyway,
Scorpio.
You're a Scorpio. Yeah, that's right. You're a Scorpio. We're not telling. So, good morning, Eric. It's good to talk to you. 6 months from today, it is Christmas. That's the joke I always make. That's always the joke I always make with my mother. Yeah, so June 25th, the day after Saint-Jean-Baptiste and Fête Nationale in Quebec. So happy Fête Nationale and Saint-Jean-Baptiste one day late. We have tons of polls, end of session polls. That may be poster release. We have provincial polls. We also had a by-election in a peculiar, a very specific situation in Nova Scotia. And yes, so we have tons of data to talk about today. I'm not sure what the whole narrative is. It's gonna be a strange summer for some people. Perhaps we can dig into that, but where would you like to start here today, Nick?
Yeah, well, we got a lot of polls. We actually have lots of numbers to go through today, so I don't think we'll be missing things to chat about today. So we had we had our two tracking polls from Liaison and Nanos. We had new national polls from Abacus and Leger. We also had a Manitoba-only poll from Probe Research. I'll quickly go through the numbers here just to set the table for people. Yep. So Liaison had 43% for the Liberals, 32% for the Conservatives, 14% for the NDP.
14, yeah.
Nanos had 44 for the Liberals. It was 43.5 to be specific, so, it's that rounding up. 32 for the Conservatives, 11 for the NDP. Abacus had 45 for the Liberals, 37 for the Conservatives, 9 for the NDP. And then you had Leger with 48 for the Liberals. Remember, they had that 50 last time. 34 for the Conservatives and 6 for the NDP. My takeaway from some of these polls might be a little bit of all of the chatter we've had for the last 2 weeks about things going up, things going down. Maybe things haven't actually moved very much at all.
That's why we say, Eric, we always say trust the average, because 2-3 weeks ago, remember, we had a 40 for the Liberals and we had Leger with a 50, and we were like, ugh. And what do we have now? 43 to 48, which is entirely reasonable, a spread, considering where the Liberals are at. So trust the average. Yes, the pollsters went a little, divergence here, but it seemed to be converging now. The Conservatives... Now, there's a spread that's about the same size, about 5 to 6 points. 32% from Liaison and Nanos, 37% from Abacus data. But once again, you can draw a line in the middle. But there's still a big disagreement on where the NDP stands. I checked the past Leger polls of this year. Let me tell you the NDP number, Eric, from Leger since January. 5, 6, 6, 6, 6. So there's no movement whatsoever from Leger. I'm not sure what's up with that, but it's part of the bigger picture. But I think also when we talked about government approval, and we'll get to that also, but after weeks of slipping in government approval, there seems to be at least a stabilization of the numbers. Monsieur Carney is around somewhere between plus 15 and plus 25 in government approval, which is an enviable place to be after 1 year in power. But yeah, so that would be my big takeaway. Did you see something in numbers that struck your eye, Eric?
The NDP I thought was kind of funny because we've had disagreements before. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. But sometimes there would be one poll that was over on the side. Before it was Leger with the 6, and some of the other polls had pretty high numbers for the NDP. But then this one is almost a perfect division. You have 6 for Leger.
Yeah.
3 points higher is Abacus at 9. And then 2 points higher is Nanos at 11, and then 3 points higher is Liaison at 14. So they're all spread up. There's no these 4 polls don't say who's closer to the truth, right? It's
Yeah.
not like we have 3 polls that are showing 11, 12, 14, and
Yeah.
one that's 6 or 6, 7, 8, and the other one's having 14. So, I mean, again, we can split the difference and say they're at 10, which I guess aligns with where we've seen lots of different polls. But again, it does kind of feel like maybe the numbers have shifted a little bit for the Liberals, that we're probably going to be less likely, I think, at this stage to see 47s and 48s.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're back. I don't think we're heading to where it seemed to have been, where we're going to increasingly see 40s and 41s. It just does feel like a little bit of a reversion to the mean with these numbers, which, I mean, I guess it was much ado about nothing in the end. If there's been lots of chatter about, is support for the Liberals softening?
Yeah.
Are we starting to see some vulnerabilities? It's marginal at best if we're seeing anything like that.
End of the second honeymoon, I think, was something that we mentioned. Doesn't seem to be the case unless you think the honeymoon. I mean, when you still have a 55% approval, I mean, that's still remarkable. A lot of premiers, and we saw that in the Angus Street premier report card. A lot of premiers would like to have a 55, right? And only Wab Canoe does have it. That Léger poll still puzzles me, though. Again, I mean, okay, I know we have to be careful with single poll projection, but just for fun, I plugged in the Léger numbers. Did you see that projection? Okay,
Yes.
so with only the Léger poll, the NDP is battling the Greens for fifth place, right? Two or three seats. And one of them is Rosemont La Petite Patrie right now in my numbers, and we know that would be in danger once Monsieur Poilievre leaves at the end of the summer. So I don't know. I will have to reach out to some pollsters after the summer break and discuss, because I often do reach out to pollsters and discuss. I haven't discussed this with Léger yet. Why they have the NDP so low. Obviously, I'm not saying they're wrong and the others are right, or vice versa. But it is a big spread, and it does matter. Right, okay, it doesn't matter right now, but it could matter in the future. And when I say it doesn't matter right now, in the Léger poll, with the NDP very low, Liberals lead by 14. And if you take the poll that has the NDP the highest, which is Liaison Strategies, Liberals are leading by 11. That's liberal majorities, in both cases. Also, the Poilievre numbers seem to have gotten a little better. We saw in the liaison 39% favorable, 47% unfavorable. That's still a net negative, but it's not as negative as it used to be. So it's something to watch on. I know that earlier this month, the Angus Street Institute had pretty poor numbers for Poilievre, and they were flat over several months. So, yeah, that will be my big takeaway. We are entering summertime sadness for the Conservative, cruel summer, if you will, if you want to push that little analogy here. It's going to be tough to be in the Conservative circles right now looking at these numbers.
Yeah, the Conservative vote intention numbers have been just unmovable. We've seen lots of variation with the Liberals and the NDP, and the Conservatives have just not shown any sort of life. So they have their base, they have their support, but it's not growing, and it's not also drifting away. And Poilievre's numbers, yeah, his negatives seem to have come down a little bit, but I wonder how much of that is
indifference.
His departure from the center stage.
Yeah.
It's easy to forget why you like or dislike someone, especially dislike, perhaps, if you haven't seen them for a while.
Yeah.
When you don't like someone, but you haven't seen them in a long time, they don't seem so bad to you in your memory. So maybe that could be a bit of a factor that's helping Poilievre in terms of his personal numbers, but it doesn't mean that much if when he starts to get back into the center stage, back into the spotlight, if people are reminded of the reasons why he had bad numbers before. So I do think it is going to be a tough few months for the Conservatives, and they just need to get through it because there's no election coming soon. There's by-elections that'll happen over the next few months, but none of them are really all that important for the Conservatives. They have one of their MPs that's residing in one of the safest seats in the country in rural Saskatchewan. There's no chance they're going to lose that. And then all the other ones are not even really in the running. So it doesn't. There's not a lot of pressure on them for the next few months, but nevertheless, it does start to become that narrative that they're no longer competitive, they're no longer really in it, that Poilievre is no longer necessarily the prime minister in waiting. If that narrative takes hold, that starts to become a big problem for him.
Yeah.
For the Liberals, I mean, cruising along at high levels of support, the approval ratings are good for Mark Carney. That's not going to last forever, but it also can be something that becomes a problem if the Liberals start to internalize that things are going so well for them and so they can't do no wrong. That I think would also be an issue for them, right? So there's two little kind of, the complementary kind of in a way that the longer these numbers hold, the more there could be a problem for each of these parties further down the line. Although for now, the Liberals have not much to worry about. And the NDP, I mean, it's all just, they're playing with free money for now, right? It doesn't really matter again. If they're doing a little bit better, they can maybe convince donors to open up their wallets a little bit more, that kind of thing. But it does seem like for the summer, everybody might be happy to just take some time at the beach and see what the numbers look like in September.
But you mentioned the by-elections. The NDP should be competitive in... Should they? I think they should be competitive in a few of them. And we know that sometimes NDP voters, we've seen in the past, don't really show up for by-elections when they're not competitive. They should be competitive in Rosemont-la-Petite-Patrie. They should be somewhat competitive in Laurier-Sainte-Marie. And there were rumors and rumblings, perhaps in, what's the Beaches East York? I mean, they got crushed in the last election, but many NDPers did get crushed in the last election. They should have an interest in at least showing some momentum. So that will be interesting. But I want to go back to that Léger poll and the approval numbers. So net approval, right? We know the sample size sometimes are smaller and regional, but when you look at British Columbia, total approved 60, total disapproved 32. That's a plus 28 in BC. In British Columbia, where we see the provincial Conservatives seem to have taken the lead. In Alberta, 53% approve, 40% disapprove. So Monsieur Carney and the Liberals are a plus 13 in Alberta in approval. Now, of course, this is the most favorable poll to the Liberals, but it's still Léger. And it's not entirely different from what we've seen from other pollsters. You say we know it won't last forever, but it has lasted that long, and that's I don't think we would have said last year when Mark Carney had just won a minority that 1 year later, on the eve of summer 26, that he would have a net positive approval in every region of the country. I don't think we would have said that. I would not have bet on that anyway. So it's still remarkable that we're here. Some of it, again, as you said, the Conservatives perhaps didn't help themselves, but they have to find something to bring down the popularity of his government next fall, because this is now it's not a honeymoon anymore. It's just people appear to be satisfied with the actions of the federal government. It's not the same thing.
And they need to make sure that they're the party that benefits from a reduction in support or popularity, right?
Absolutely.
It can't just be that the Liberals become unpopular and they will necessarily get that support. The NDP has gotten more of a bump recently than the Conservatives have.
Oh, yeah.
You could imagine the NDP get a bump. You could imagine the Bloc getting the bump in Quebec. The Conservatives still need to do something to... It doesnn't just come to them by default, although that is still the more likely outcome. They still need to do something about it to earn it.
Yeah.
We had we'll finish off with this poll that came from Probe Research in Manitoba.
Yep.
47 for the Liberals, 35 for the Conservatives, 14 for the NDP. So pretty big lead for the Liberals in Manitoba, which is a big change from not a big change, but a change from the last election. But what's interesting is that
change, yeah.
Yeah, in Winnipeg, where really all the seats are primarily up for grabs, 54 for the Liberals, 26 for the Conservatives, and 16 for the NDP. So as far as Manitoba goes, still looks like the map wouldn't change much, except for maybe the Liberals could pick up a couple of the seats in Winnipeg that they didn't win in the last election. That seems to be where things stand in the province.
I mean, do you remember the result of the election just in Manitoba in terms of popular support? The Conservatives won the popular vote in Manitoba. Right. It was 47 to 41. So 5.5 points. And so if we see this poll where the Liberals clearly have a province-wide advantage, that's bad news for the NDP. And that shows that a province that voted for the Conservatives in the popular vote would lose this by a big margin. It matches what we see on the national level. It kind of confirms what we see from other pollsters. But that's really not good news for the Conservatives. They won 7 seats. They won the most seats in Manitoba. Half of the seats, but they would not win 7 with these numbers.
No. Why don't we just stick with Manitoba quickly, because Probe also had the numbers for the province. That's what's kind of crazy about it, right? You got 47 for the federal Liberals, you got 8 for the provincial Liberals. So this poll had 55 for Wild Canoe's NDP, 32 for the PC, so not that much different between the Conservative and the PC vote, and 8 for the provincial Liberals, but 55 for the NDP and 47 for the federal Liberals. There are lots of Carney Wild Canoe voters in Manitoba.
Oh yes, there are. This is even more spectacular considering that this is we're 1 year removed from the Manitoba election is scheduled to be September of next year in 2027. So we're 14 months away from an election, and these numbers have not moved that much. Monsieur Canoe and the NDP, still very much popular, would win easily an election. This is a complete sweep of Winnipeg, and even some regions where the PCs are historically favorable would be in danger. So those Canoe Carney voters in Manitoba right now, they hold the keys to to the government in Winnipeg. Absolutely.
Yeah, you mentioned Winnipeg, 63% for the Manitoba NDP. That puts them up 11 points from the last election in Winnipeg. And the PCs are at 25, down 7 points. You wonder if even Obi Khan can hold on to his seat, like you said, a sweep for the NDP. And there will be a by-election in July. I think it's July 21st in the riding of the Kemisack, or Kamisack. I can't recall I think it's that. But yes, this is a riding in northern Manitoba. I looked at it. It's a sad story. The MLA actually passed away. This is why there's going to be a riding, a by-election in this riding. But the NDP has actually held this seat since. You want to take a guess?
Tell me.
1969. Wow. Pretty sure that they'll be able to hold it, and especially with the kind of numbers we'll see. I will be curious to see if we. The NDP, I think, got something like 67% of the vote in this riding in the last general election. Like, will they be pushing 75, 80? That might be something to look at. But I guess, there's not really much. If you're Wild Canoe at this stage, you might be tempted to just be like, why don't we go in the fall? Why don't we go in the spring? But also, why wouldn't you just say to yourself, you know what? In a year, I'm probably still going to have these great numbers. Why don't I just make sure I have a full 4-year term? And not try to shorten my time here, but
what is the proverb in English? Un tien est mieux que deux tu l'auras. Like a bird in the hand is better than two in the bush.
A bird in the hand is better than 2 in the bush.
Yeah, I could either for sure win now or probably win next year. These numbers. For those who are cynical about governments that call snap elections, I understand you. But still, it's allowed. Many have done it. Doug Ford has done it. Monsieur Houston has done it. Not Danielle Smith, but she could do it. There's many premiers that have done this because they want to secure a mandate. If you look at these numbers, Monsieur Canoe, would you even argue that it would be quite arrogant to not go? To just say, oh yeah, next year I'm still going to crush it. You don't know that. It would be logical in just like the pure game of elections to go early if you're Wild Canoe, but we'll see. I don't think there's been serious rumors about Manitoba going this fall, but you look at these numbers, it must be tempting, right? So
you go early if you think your numbers are going to get worse. I don't know if they think their numbers are going to get worse.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at Doug Ford right now. Like the analogy, he was supposed to go in June, like this month, right? So maybe it was a good idea to go early last year, in hindsight, of course. But anyway, so.
Well, you mentioned Ontario. Why don't we talk about Ontario? We got a new poll from Liaison. Doug Ford is talking a lot about the polls lately.
Yes, he has.
We talked about it, I think, last week. He called the Angus Reid Institute poll fake, and the Angus Reid Institute more or less gave him a letter, I think, asking for a retraction. I didn't realize it at the time. I thought he just said, "Oh, it's a fake poll," but he went even deeper. He said, like, "Oh, this poll polled hardcore NDP neighborhoods." Like, that's just not how an online panel works anyway.
It wasn't even a good poll for the NDP too. So
yeah, and it was just bizarre. But so this past week, he then got another kind of knock on the head from the polls, from Liaison. 38 for the Ontario Liberals, 35 for the PCs, 22 for the NDP, 26% approval rating for Doug Ford. And when at his last press conference, everybody was asking him about how things are going, and he was getting really upset about it. And there was an article in, I think, the Globe, maybe, or the Star, talking about who could be his potential successors. They're already talking about when he's going to go away. Here's my hot take on this.
Go ahead.
All right. You ready?
I'm ready.
I think it's a bit exaggerated, this talk that Doug Ford is doing really, really poorly.
Expand on that. What do you mean?
Okay. We've known that Doug Ford and the PCs still tend to do pretty well in the polls, even when Doug Ford isn't doing all that well in approval ratings. So we've seen low numbers from the Angus Reid Institute with Doug Ford's approval ratings before, at the same time when the PCs were leading in polls, I think by the Angus Reid Institute, but by other people too, at like 40%. We saw an Abacus data poll just from last month that had everything looking fine for the PCs. And when I see that the Liberals, the Ontario Liberals, are doing well in a poll like from Liaison, I just doubt that a lot of respondents in Ontario are really thinking a lot about the actual parties. I think a lot of it has to be, I like Mark Carney and the federal Liberals, so that means I must like the Ontario Liberals. And, I have some doubt. So when Doug Ford gets all prickly and says, like, "Oh, we'd win a big majority right now," I mean, he's banking a bit on the campaign research polls that are done by Nick Kouvalis, who he is, he puts out on Twitter.
Who's been pretty good at polling Ontario in recent years, right? So
I kind of don't disagree. If there was an election today, right now, do you think that the Ontario Liberals would win that election?
No, I do not. And I think they would do better, but they won, 14 seats last year? They still, that's not fair. They had 30% of the vote, which is respectable. But about that, and I wanted to answer your comment here. The Ontario Liberals are without a leader. And so when you see the Ontario Liberals leading by 3 points or being tied in some recent polls in Ontario, it says more about the dissatisfaction with the Ford species than it says anything about the Liberals. So when you have an interim leader or you don't have a leader, you can imagine the best possible leader. We've discussed this before. A hypothetical leader sometimes is better than the actual one. So when the OLP leadership race ends, I think it's November, and we have an actual name, an actual face to put on the OLP, okay, perhaps I'll give it more thought. Right now, yes, I think a lot of voters in Ontario are kind of tired of Doug Ford. The numbers show so. But are they tired of the PCs, and do they really think that the ONDP or the OLP are better alternatives? I don't see that in the polls right now. But I do. It is strange to see Doug Ford frustrated at pollsters, because usually it's losers that do that, and he's not a loser. He's won 3 straight majorities, right? Something no Ontario Premier had done since Frost, I think. So. Don't, Mr. Ford, don't comment on polls when you're frustrated. Just let it go. We'll work hard. We'll work hard to help Ontarians do their daily lives. That's what you say. You don't say they're fake polls. Come on, that's loser talk.
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not doubting the numbers from Liaison. I'm doubting that in an election that is actually what would be produced. I think, as you said, there is a little bit of that. Perfect leader in the mind of Liberals. Now, I will amend my comment a little bit to say that I do think the PCs are in worse shape than they were last year, for sure. Doug Ford was popular riding on his anti-Trump kind of discussion and attacks and all this. That's gone. I think he's less popular now, but in an election, you still have to make a choice. And is it very obvious that he is now seen as the worst choice? That I'm not so sure about, based on The NDP hasn't really gotten much of a lift. And if the Liberals are getting a big lift when Mark Carney is doing so well in Ontario...
Yep, absolutely. Cross-pollination.
Yeah, you can't just take these things in a vacuum. So anyway, I think it's an interesting little debate, but I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see... Like if we see a new abacus poll next month and it has the...
40 to 33, yeah.
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 I don't know how that fits in with the narrative, so it's going to be interesting to see. It's a next press conference for Doug Ford, but maybe he should head off to the cottage and stay away from the journalists for a few months.
Yes, he should. Absolutely.
You mentioned the by-election in Nova Scotia. So
yeah.
This was the by-election in Shedikan, Margaries, Pleasant Bay. This is... what are you laughing at?
Sorry, Shedikan. Yes, absolutely. Go ahead. It's...
Did we have some Irish coffees this morning? What's going on? Anyway,
yes,
this is a riding on Cape Breton Island. This was created to represent the Acadian minority, and it was created mid-mandate, which is very unusual. So this riding didn't exist before this election. It was part of the riding of Inverness, and now it's this new riding. Turnout in this by-election was 69%, which is really amazing, good. Especially considering that turnout in this riding in the general election was like 48. So, the Acadiens in this part of the province were pretty happy to have this seat. PCs won it 49%, 40% for the Liberals, 10% for the NDP. We've talked a little bit about Tim Houston's polls in Nova Scotia, so how does this line up with your expectations?
I think he did a little better than we thought. I think considering when you look at the distribution, and you wrote it on our outline, the PCs had over 50% in that section of the riding before it was drawn up. Now
and
they had
shout
49%.
out to Kyle Hutton who did those calculations.
Absolutely. Great work. And also we'll mention him again with my Quebec map. But 49% for the PCs. It's par for what we see. The NDP was never competitive in that area anyway, so -3 for the NDP, I don't think it's a big story. So I think this is steady as she goes for the Houston PCs. We haven't had a lot of data out of Nova Scotia in the past 6 months. Obviously, it's a majority government, so it's a small province, and so we won't, I'm sorry, but we won't see a lot of data. But it looks like perhaps the Houston PCs are not where they were in 24, but they're still in pretty good shape. If they can win that riding, for me, they're still in a majority position. And by the way, for those, there are some folks who emailed me asking how come 338 in Nova Scotia has not been updated to add this new riding. I was waiting for the by-election, and now it was Fête Nationale, it was a holiday, so it will be added to the 56 riding. Now it's 56, so 29 for a majority. It will be added to 338. Do you have anything to add about to this, Eric? I mean, this is not a surprising result, is it?
No, but with some of the polls we had seen, I wouldn't have been shocked if it had been a bit closer. Because the polls had suggested PCs had come down quite a bit. The Liberals were up a little bit. The NDP was up, and they weren't up here, which it puts a little bit of a... we were talking about narratives. Puts a little bit of the brakes of the narratives that Tim Houston's PCs are in a lot of trouble. But I would just have the caveat that this riding was created to represent the distinct minority of Acadians in this part of the province. They might be a bit different than the province as a whole, right? When you have a riding that's created to represent that distinctness, their political views might be a bit distinct. And because it is a very small riding, there's only 3,000 votes. If you know the candidates, that's probably going to make a huge deal compared to how it would in Halifax and places like that, right? So a little bit of, we can't take these trend lines and just apply them to the province willy-nilly. But if you're the PCs, I think you should be happy that your vote didn't come down that much, because all the other polls are suggesting that your vote has come down quite a bit, and it hasn't come down that much here. So that at least is probably a sigh of relief, I think, for Houston's PCs.
I mean, we did have 2 polls from Abacus Data in Nova Scotia in this current year, and they didn't show the Liberals going up. They did show the NDP going up, but we knew the NDP would not be really competitive there. So we'll see. The Liberals still have a long way ahead of them to come back to respectability here. So.
We got a poll out of New Brunswick, which came from a new place, at least for our eyes. This is a political consultancy called Porter O'Brien, which is located in Fredericton. From their release, what they said was that they conduct a omnibus poll twice a year where their clients kind of add their own questions to it. And Porter O'Brien has always included a voting intentions question in this omnibus poll. And they decided to release it for the first time just recently. So this is a company that would, do polls for their clients. So they're not exactly a polling company, I guess, but they have some experience and they are a member of some polling associations. So it is, when you get numbers from a place that you haven't seen before, you got to make sure that there's some, there's some legitimacy there. So I think these numbers are worth paying attention to. They had 43% for the New Brunswick Liberals, 39% for the PCs, 13% for the Greens. Compared to last fall, this was a drop of 6 points for the Liberals from where they had been from Porter O'Brien in the fall. This seems to align with what we saw from the Angus Reid Institute with Susan Holt's numbers coming down.
Coming down to sky-high numbers, should we say. I mean, Madame Holt did have her honeymoon. Now it's over. With a 4-point lead, the Liberals would probably not win the election, although it could be close considering, there's 43 to 39 is still a pretty good score for the Liberals historically, right? But that's something to watch for. I wonder if we'll have more polls in New Brunswick in the fall. But yeah, the honeymoon is over for Madame Holt. And the PCs, they don't have a permanent leader yet, right?
No,
that's okay. That's why.
Later this year they have two candidates in the running. So we'll see what's going to happen out of that. So this is a placeholder kind of PC support. So I think that would be, it goes to what we had said with the Ontario Liberals. Right now it's the ideal PC party. Maybe the new leader will meet that ideal. Maybe he won't. So something to keep an eye on, but happy to see more numbers out of New Brunswick since Narrative Research has not been putting out their quarterly Atlantic numbers. We haven't had as many numbers out of the Maritimes or Newfoundland and Labrador. We've had Abacus has started to put out some numbers in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick now and then, so we're happy to see that. But just to have another set of numbers I think is good. So hopefully they'll continue to put these out publicly. And it's not currently on their website. I reached out to Porter O'Brien, but it is going to be put on their website. So if you're looking for it, it should probably be there, I suppose, in the next few weeks.
Excellent.
All right, we'll finish with this last poll from Léger. The barometre, the barometer of personal popularity in Quebec.
So basically, the Léger does this twice a year in June and in December. They ask Quebecers about many political figures at the federal, municipal, and provincial levels, and they just ask, do you have a good or bad opinion of these people, or do you not know them enough? And you saw this poll, Eric, right? Which politician in Canada had the highest positive score of all? Is Mark Carney. The Albertan from the Northwest Territories who was criticized for having medium French last. He is the most popular politician, all levels of governments included in there. 60% bon opinion, so good opinion, and only 28% of bad opinion. 28%, which coincides with the score the Bloc had in the election. You could also throw in some conservatives in there, I guess. Madame Fréchette also had a good score, the new premier of Quebec. 50% of good opinion, 29% of bad opinion. And one thing that really struck me, Eric, and this goes more into the polling and the methodology and the sampling of things, is that Monsieur Charles Milliard, the Quebec Liberal leader, Monsieur Plamondon, the PQ leader, and Madame Fréchette all have net positive ratings in this poll. Whereas just 2 weeks ago, we had a Palace poll that showed that all of them had net negative favorables. But both polls, the Léger poll and the Palace poll, had nearly identical voting intentions. So the landscape in terms of vote doesn't change, but the impression of leaders, I guess, changes with methodology. This is an online poll, so you can show a picture, people can read the question, then choose if they have a good or bad opinion. Whereas, the other is IVR. You just hear the name, go like, yeah, bad opinion. So I guess IVR respondents are grumpier than online respondents. I find this very, very interesting. Both pollsters see the same tendencies, the same trends, but the raw numbers are not the same here.
Yeah, it is a bit of a puzzle, right? Because when we see the palace polls, the narrative is that none of these leaders are very popular.
Yeah.
When you see this, it suggests that all the leaders are more or less okay.
Yeah.
Charles Milliard didn't have great numbers. Rouba Gazal didn't have great numbers. Éric Duhem still has bad numbers.
Yeah.
So it's not across the board. Like Éric Duhem and Pierre Poilievre both had very negative, negative numbers in Quebec. So it is a little bit of a puzzle. I do wonder, because in the palace poll, isn't there a neutral option?
There is, yes, a neutral option, yes.
So whenever there's the neutral, I always wonder about that, because I think that when you force people to say whether you have a good or a bad, I think that in some cases, depending on the person, probably, those neutrals will say, fine, I like them. Or they'll say, oh, I guess I have to choose, I don't like them. I think that's one of the reasons why we see, for example, in the Abacus and the Angus Reid Institute polls, Pierre Poilievre's numbers much worse than the Angus Reid Institute.
Yeah.
Better in Abacus because there's the neutral option. So I don't know what to take from that. Like, I don't know. I mean, the trend line, I guess, is the important thing. But you look at these numbers and you think, wow, CAQ's got a real shot here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, this shows that Madame Fréchette has huge potential upside, even though the latest Léger poll for the CAQ wasn't that great. It was 20%. It was not as high as other pollsters. But Madame Fréchette, 50% good opinion. And I guess, do you have a favorable impression and do you have a good opinion? The wording is different, but I just can't grasp why it's so different. Now, we should say, Monsieur Plamondon, the PQ leader, has pretty good numbers in there, but among party leaders in Quebec, he has the highest negative at 30%. This is, except for Monsieur Duhem, of course. This is also what we saw in Palace, but with different, water levels. I don't know. I want to dig into this over the summer, ask questions, and perhaps do a little testing. Perhaps I'll, next time I commission a poll, I'll do a test. Half the sample doesn't have a neutral, and the other half has a neutral to see where it goes. I think it would be a nice experiment, but we'll see. So.
One other set of numbers. So Alexandre Boulris, who took the jump from the NDP to Quebec Solidaire, 24% good opinion, 21% bad opinion, whatever. But what I thought was interesting was that Avi Lewis was mentioned here.
Yeah.
84% did not know who he was. So he still has a lot of work to do in Quebec. He ranks among a series of, I think, CAQ cabinet ministers I'm not even,
exactly.
I don't even recognize some of the names that I'm seeing here that he's around. He's about as well known as
Mathieu Lévesque. He's the cabinet minister that from the Outaouais that we don't know much of. But
So there you go. So still lots of work for the NDP to do in Quebec. And Rosemont La Petite Patrie, that could be a challenge. We'll get to that at some point.
Absolutely.
All right. Do you have a quiz or do we move to the number of the week?
Eric, I have a quiz.
Okay.
Are you ready? Oh, you seem to...
It's been a rough couple weeks.
I'm throwing you a bone here. Same format as past weeks, but we go a bit more recent. Eric, a federal general election was held on May 22nd, 1979.
Okay.
Shortly after my birth, to elect Canada's 31st Parliament. This election resulted in a defeat of the Liberal Party of Canada, ending 16 straight years of Liberal rule in Ottawa. And as you very well know, Eric, this Parliament was short-lived, as the new PC government lost a confidence vote that fall, and then lost power to the Liberals in the 1980 election. Eric, I have trivia questions about the 1979 election. So, how aware are you of the results of this election? Are you more aware than 1925, for instance, or?
We will find out.
Eric, 1979 Canadian election. Number 1. Oh yeah, you have 3 clues because last time you had 2 clues and it wasn't enough. So you have 3 clues now. So if you need them, of course, right? How many parties won seats in that election, and which are they?
Okay. There was the PCs, there was the Liberals, there was the NDP, there was Social Credit. And I think that's it. I don't think there was a fifth. I don't know who it would be. Yeah, that's it. It'll be those 4.
Final answer?
Yeah.
And you are correct. There were 4 parties, the PC, the Liberals, the NDP, and the Socreds, or les créditistes en français. Okay, number 2, Eric. Who were the leaders of those 4 parties?
I feel like these are easier, but because of that, I'm going to make a mistake. So there was Joe Clark, there was Pierre Trudeau, there's Ed Broadbent of the NDP. Now, for Social Credit in 79.
Yep.
I think in 79, it wasn't Réal Cahouette anymore. I think it was Fabien Roy. That'll be my final answer.
Final answer? Yeah. It was Fabien Roy. The hint was Réal Cahouette died in 1976. So it wasn't him. You're 2 for 2. Eric, let's talk about the NDP here for a second. Broadbent's NDP won 2 seats in Atlantic Canada, 1 seat in each of these 2 provinces. Which are they?
Oh, in 79.
Yes.
Oh.
They won a seat in 2 different Atlantic Canada provinces.
Well, it wouldn't be PEI, that's for sure. I mean, it's got to be Nova Scotia. I'm just wondering if New Brunswick. I'm going to say it was. I think. Your clue is probably not going to help me. So I'm going to say it was Nova Scotia and Newfoundland.
The NDP won Cape Breton, East Richmond in Nova Scotia. And they won Humber, Port-au-Port, Saint-Barbe in Newfoundland. So
that's not the one I would have thought.
No, really? Which? Oh, you would have thought Saint John East or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. I only asked for the provinces, and you are 3 for 3. Oh yeah, the medals same as last week. 9, 8, 7.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Number 4, Eric. In the 1979 election, Alberta had 21 seats. How many of those seats were not won by the PCs?
79. All right. Clark was an Albertan. Still is.
Yes. You very much.
How many were not? I mean, Socreds would have won their seats primarily in Quebec. Did they sweep?
You still have your hints. You still have your hints.
I'll take a hint for this one. I'll take a hint.
Okay. The NDP won no seat in Alberta.
Okay. That didn't really help.
No.
I'm going to guess they swept.
Final answer?
Yes.
None. Alberta was a PC sweep.
Wow.
So you are 4 for 4. Absolutely. And I looked and I didn't find, I mean, unless I didn't see, but I didn't find any seat that were really close. So it was a PC sweep, and it was an easy PC sweep. Okay, running the table so far, Eric. Oof. So maybe that check in your confidence actually is helping you here. Okay. Eric, in the 1979 election, something peculiar happened in the Northwest Territories. Now, even though this was before the creation of Nunavut, but the Northwest Territories had 2 seats. One was called Western Arctic, and the other was Nunatsiaq. Now, what was peculiar is that the party that won the popular vote in the Northwest Territories didn't win any seat. Which was that? What party was it? So there were 2 seats. The party that won the popular vote in the territory, in the entire territory, did not win either seat. Which party was it?
How do you do that?
Yeah.
Which party was it? Trying to visualize the map. I think the PCs probably won 1 or 2 of those. I'm going to guess it was maybe the NDP.
That didn't win?
Yeah.
Final answer?
Yes.
The PCs won Western Arctic. The NDP won Nunatsiaq. It's just that the Liberals finished a close second in both. So the Liberals won the popular vote, but was shut out of the Northwest Territories. Is that weird?
Well, what was your clue?
The clue was the NDP won Nunatsiaq.
I should have. That would have helped. Okay.
Okay, you still have your 3 clues. Number 6, Eric. The Liberals won the popular vote in that election over Clark's PCs. But the Liberals only won the popular vote in 3 provinces. Which province? Which provinces?
It's for sure Quebec is one of them. But I don't know what the other 2 would be. I don't know offhand, so I'll use a clue.
The clue is all 3 of these provinces are east of Manitoba.
Yeah. Okay, well, it would be Quebec. Would it be Ontario? I don't think so. I don't know how the PCs win a minority without Ontario, especially since the Liberals would have won like one of every 77 or 75 seats in Quebec. So I'm going to guess it was Quebec, PI, and 79. Trying to think of the... I'll say Quebec, PI, and Nova Scotia.
Final answer?
Yeah.
It was Quebec, New Brunswick, and Newfoundland.
Geez, I wasn't even close.
Interesting, the PEI was a PC sweep, which we haven't seen very often in history, right? So, okay, so you're 4 for 6. You lost a clue, but you still have 2. Number 7, Eric. So, aside from Alberta and PEI, where the Liberals were shut out completely in terms of seat, they were shut out in 1 more province. Which was it? They did not win any seats in Alberta. They did not win any seats in PEI. And there was 1 more province where they did not win a seat. Which was it?
One more. Okay. Okay, well, we already said that they did well in New Brunswick and Newfoundland, so it could be Nova Scotia. Saskatchewan? God, did Trudeau win in 79 in Saskatchewan? I mean, I'm just thinking like the North could have been. Or Manitoba? No, he would have won something in Winnipeg. I'll say it was...
You still have 2 clues.
Yeah, I'll use a clue.
I'm just saying. In terms of seats, the Liberals were not shut out in neither BC or Nova Scotia. This is the clue that I wrote.
Okay, Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan is the right answer. There are 14 seats in Saskatchewan, 10 went to the PCs, 4 went to the NDP, 0 to the Liberals. Okay, so you're what, 5 for 7, which is pretty good. All right, you can still medal here. We'll finish with my favorite game, Sweep or Rainbow. Okay, do you have are you loading this 79 map in your head right now?
Yeah,
okay.
It's buffering right now, yeah.
And maybe I'm trying to trick you here, but I have a little fun scanning that map. It's a fun map also in 79. Eric, we're going to Toronto. St. Paul's, Rosedale, Beaches.
And
you have 3 questions left, and you have 2 clues. So I'm just saying.
I'll take a clue.
The clue is the PCs won St. Paul's.
I think this is going to be a rainbow with Rosedale being Liberal and Beaches being NDP.
Final answer?
Yeah.
My friend, it was a PC sweep.
Oh, it was. Wow, they won Beaches.
PCs.
Wow.
I know, right? Just next to that was the seat of Bob Ray, but contiguous ridings. It was all PCs around there. It was still Toronto there.
I was thinking that's what I was thinking. The NDP had won around there on Bob Ray,
Yep.
but yeah, no, he wasn't that one.
Okay, so you have 2 sweep or rainbows left. If you have those, you medal. So this is pretty good. All right, we're going to Quebec for this one, my friends. Sweep or rainbow? And you have 1 clue left, right? Mm-hmm. So, Abitibi, Berthier-Masquinongé, and Joliette.
I mean, the Socrates had to win something. And I mean, they usually win in Abitibi. Could they have been a sweep here? Are you trying to trick me? I'll use a clue here. I need a clue.
Okay. The clue was Abitibi was won by Armand Cahouette, the nephew of Réal.
I don't think the PCs would have won, so it has to be a sweep. I'll say it was a Socrates sweep.
No. Who was the MP in Joliette, Eric?
Oh, God. It was Reckless Al in Joliette.
And Berthier-Masquinongé went to the Liberals. I thought this was an easy one. I'm sorry, Eric.
Oh, you're right. I should remember that. We've had that as a quiz question before. Darn it. Okay.
Okay, for almost the podium here. Last one. We're going to Vancouver. Vancouver Kingsway. Burnaby. New Westminster Coquitlam. Sweep or rainbow? No. I read the wrong line.
Okay.
Don't think that's not a clue.
And the NDP did well enough in 79. They won all 3. I mean, they would be NDP later on.
Kingsway, Burnaby, and New Westminster Coquitlam.
Trying to think of the ridings at all. I think the NDP would have won at least one of these. So it's either a rainbow or a sweep.
Do you have a last clue? I think you do, right?
No.
No, you don't, huh? Okay. What's in your gut? What do you have? You want to say it.
My gut says NDP sweep.
And it is NDP sweep. Yeah. I thought this was the hard one, that the Quebec one was the easy one, but sometimes when you're on the spot,
I need to think about the ridings a bit more.
6 out of 10. That's pretty good. It was not an easy quiz. Wow. But yeah, that's a nice pull, the NDP sweep. But you're gonna be dreaming of Joliette now.
I know. Now I won't ever forget it. All right. I need a gold again. Jeez. I'm feeling the drought.
Good job, Eric. Good job.
I'm like the Maple Leafs. We're going to move to the number of the week. Why don't you go first?
My number of the week was that 60% for Mark Carney in Quebec. We've seen from several polls, not just Léger, that the Liberals are doing super well in Quebec. And I'm not saying this to pump the Liberals' tire or anything. It's just that we are entering a Quebec election in 2 months. And the most popular politician in Quebec voters' mind right now is the Prime Minister of Canada. That has not happened very often. Yes, Justin Trudeau did okay in Quebec. He's never done as well as Mark Carney has done in his first year. And I wanted to bring back, because it's going to be a challenge for the provincial parties to not just attack Mark Carney too hard. If you go too hard on Mark Carney, it can backfire. And I know the PQ will say that the federal government is working against their interest, but a lot of voters right now, are in agreement with what Mark Carney is doing in Quebec. And so this is the number to watch. If Mr. Carney becomes less popular in Quebec, it could make things easier for the CAQ and the PQ in the fall.
All right, my number is going to be 6. It's because we got 6 vacancies coming up over the summer, and also the clock is ticking on the 6 months for an election call, because on Monday, Jonathan Wilkinson in North Vancouver, Capilano, and Simon Pierre Savard-Tremblay in Saint-Hyacinthe, Bagot-Acton officially resigned the seat, or at least Elections Canada officially got word of it. So the clock has started to tick on that 6 months. The by-election could be called, the start of the campaign could be called as early as July 3rd, as late as December 19th. So what will happen in terms of the resignations of the other 4 How that will fit in with that calendar, we don't know, but the clock is starting to tick on that 6 months for those 6 vacancies. So I'm very curious to see when those by-elections actually happen. And you know what? I think we will be getting some more by-elections soon. The Ontario PCs named their candidate in York Simcoe, which they didn't need to do because that one's in a while. So I'm starting to think we'll probably get some summer by-elections in Ontario. How low can turnout go? We will find out.
We will find out. About those federal by-elections, that it looks like we won't have this huge night of 5 or 6 by-elections in the same night. I feel like it's going to be broken down, which is too bad, but we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. Anyway, that'll be it for this week's episode. We'll be back next week. It'll be after Canada Day, so just wanted to wish everybody a happy Canada Day. I know a lot of people will be heading off to vacations and things like that, so hope you have a fun and safe summer for everybody. We'll still be back every week during the summer. We might have some special episodes or break 1 or 2 weeks. We'll see. Philippe and I also one day would take a vacation. We'll see. But Philippe, I hope you have a good week. We'll chat next week. And for everyone watching, listening, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, Eric. Merci beaucoup. Everybody, merci beaucoup and have a great weekend.